I don't care if I ever get back, so it's root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Boy, you sound good.
You must have practiced last night.
All right, number 2, America.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Thank you, and an invocation will be by Brian Pepping. Brian, is this your first?
Oh, no, this
No,
is
it's not your first one. Okay, all right.
Please bow your heads. We pause in the daily flow of life to pay special tribute this hour and what it signifies in the history of our club. We have often heard mentioned our motto, service above self. In your divine wisdom, you know how difficult it is for us, with all our human weaknesses, to actually achieve such a high standard, either in part or in full measure. We ask that you sustain us, both individually and collectively, in our efforts to come closer to this goal we are striving to achieve. The Rotary, with its vast interlocking membership, be an influence for good throughout the world. And may the ongoing precepts of our club be acceptable in your sight. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, please be seated. Very nice. Right, very nice indeed. John, for me, you didn't have to do it. Good job.
Might be paid out the right day.
Finally got the right thing for you. You're coming up. Okay, look at you at the back corner over there, folks. You see Murray Mack standing there all alone. Let's give him a round of applause for our greeters. Murray, we have some visiting Rotarians, and I know we do because I can see them.
Yes, we do. President Kim, we have Warren Teagan from Sanibel Rotary.
Warren Keegan.
We have Joyce Helens with Brandon Rotary.
Joyce is here back. All righty. And then we have guests at the table. Let's do a little introduction of the guests at the table. Over here, I see the Joan and Klaus have come back. So you can at least stand up. We don't have to introduce you, but at least you can say hello there. So wave your hands for those who see you. All right, welcome there. How about back there? I see Peg.
My guest today, member of transition, is Jeff Green with Rasmussen College.
All right, welcome. All right, we got a bunch at this table. Great, we'll start with you, I guess.
I have 2 guests today. Devinder Malhotra is the Vice President for Academic Affairs at St. Cloud State, and Heather Weems is our new Athletic Director. And I might have a guest at that table, or do you, Lori?
You can go ahead.
Can I have a guest at this table?
Yeah.
Bernie Oman is Legislative Affairs Director for Minskew and St. Cloud State University.
All right.
Okay. Welcome to you. How about back at that middle table by the mayor? Is there anybody new at that table? I can't see. It doesn't look like it. How about the way back? John? Tawana, anybody back with you?
Yep.
No? I just don't want to miss too many tables. All right, over here you got everyone. We got Joyce in here already. Anybody else at this table? And John at yours? Everyone looks like they belong. Over here, there's some. Well, Carolyn. Make sure you mark this as on her bill now.
Yes, I'd like to introduce you to some of my very dear colleagues. One is my student assistant leader. I want to give him a Dr. John Palmer, and he's my junior supervisor as well, and Dr. Boston Cassie. All these people helped me go to the USA Science Festival, and I want them to come here today to cheer our new chancellor.
Okay, welcome. I think that's pretty much it then. All right, Murray, you want to draw a number? Everybody take out your ticket, your winning ticket, go get the loot. It should be a pink one with a kind of faded away. He's drawing the number. You need a cue. And which number to draw?
Here we go. 777-383.
383. Oh, It seems so unusual not to have the troops and all the other stuff that we normally have. It's kind of fun to see the crowd. But let's do some announcements. Can you believe that somebody was asking me if Summertime by George, I believe our state senator was asking if Summertime by George is on this year.
One more day, guys. Pray for good weather. Several quick announcements. Okay, last week there was a group of us that went down to the lake and put together all those wonderful new picnic tables. So I really want to thank Sean Conlon and Ed Meyer and Greg Tice and Lee Monk and Jerry McCarter for their work in getting those all set up for us for tomorrow night. So we have to see them, give them a thanks. Something new we're doing this year is a t-shirt toss. The first 4 nights we're giving away 100 t-shirts each night. And so during the first band break, we'll need 10 Rotarians to kind of ring that main area. And they'll each have about 10 shirts to toss out to people. And that's thanks to St. John, St. Ben's, and Quinlan and Hughes. So if you are there tomorrow night, we'll be meeting up at the band. No, I have the t-shirts by the pop area. So when the band takes a break, if you're there, you can come and grab some t-shirts. I'll be there. The first couple of emails went out for the first 2 nights. By the end of this week, I will have the next 2 weeks scheduled. And then next week, after we have 2 weeks under our belt, the whole summer is going to be done. So if you're working the first 2 weeks, you've already got your email. If you can't make your night, I don't care. Don't email me, please. Find a replacement. Scheduling all the 20-some volunteers for 12 nights and trying to keep everybody's schedule straight, the times they want to be there and the places. That's about all I can handle. So if you can't make your night, find a replacement. If you can't find a replacement, feel free to email me and say, give me some names, because I do have names of people who would either like to be called for last minute, or that might be available. There's a few of you that haven't picked up your t-shirts yet, your orange t-shirts. I have those back there. I will be back by the registration table after the meeting today, so you can pick up your shirts. If you don't pick them up today, I'm going to bring them to Lake George and they'll be there. I think that's everything. Any questions?
Who's playing?
Oh! Mr. Tripp is going on. The Revolution 5 is tomorrow night. That is a Beatles tribute band, and the St. Cloud Times is our sponsor tomorrow night. And there's some trolley car brochures on your table. Feel free to take them, especially if you have an office where you're office staff or you have customers that could be attending. You can take as many as you want back to the office. Thanks.
Okay. We have to give that crew a lot of work, a lot of things. They've been doing a lot of work for us. Drew, do you have anything? Oh, somebody gave me money to give you. There's some checks in already.
Oh, all right, good. All right, well, as you know, our raffle is also starting tomorrow night, or at least the raffle at the Summertime by George Festival. And I just want to remind you that it is the job of the incoming president to be in charge of the fundraiser of the raffle, so hate the position, don't hate me. I know it's selling raffle tickets is not everybody's favorite thing to do, but it is for a good cause. It's trying to make it fun, and we just really encourage everybody to participate, do their best. You should already have your envelopes with 30 tickets inside. If you don't have your envelopes yet, I will be in the back again today, and I've handed out a few more envelopes today, and I've got everybody on an envelope somewhere in your 30 tickets. As far as selling those tickets, a quick reminder, we are not selling our own personal tickets in the ticket booth, at the raffle booth, okay? It's because we have a lot more than just those 30 tickets each to sell. So we refer to those as the club tickets. We're going to try to sell the club tickets first, and we're encouraging everyone else to sell or buy your own tickets elsewhere. But one little change we have made is we encourage you to stick them in your back pocket if you're working the event and you're over at the Eastern Tavern, or if you're out in the parking lot and you get a chance, you see somebody you know, go ahead and sell your ticket there. We're just asking you to not sell your own personal tickets from the actual booth. We're going to try to sell only the club tickets there. And then one final thing, a couple of changes if you haven't noticed yet on the ticket. There's a couple of changes from last year. First of all, we tried to make the vehicle maybe more appealing to more people. I'm sure Brian and his wife love the Camaro, but I don't know where Brian is, he's in here, so there he is back there. How's the Camaro working for you? Pretty good. Well, we did hear a few people saying they would have liked something a little bit different. So this year we went with an SUV. It's a Chevy Equinox SUV, again provided by Gilliland. Thanks, Christy, for giving us a good deal on that. So that's one change. The other big change is that we changed the cash option to $20,000. So if you don't want the car, you can take $20,000 cash. So it's a pretty significant prize for a $10 investment. And I'm hoping that'll help you to sell the tickets. So thanks, and let's get on to the have fun.
Okay. Okay, Janelle, you want to talk at all about the Can-Am games coming up? Do you have anything to say?
I do not.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I do not. Do you?
Oh. All right. Well, I will just read them a brief thank you from them for the Can-Am staff. Would like to thank the St. Cloud Rotary for the support of the Can-Am 2012 Police and Fire Games. We hope to see many of you there for the opening ceremony. And remember that we are specifically helping with the chili cook-off, I think is what we're specifically sponsoring, that Wednesday afternoon when we will normally be doing our event in the evening. So there'll be a crowd of folks in town from all around the region, all around many states and international. So it should be kind of a lot of fun with that part. Okay.
Which week was that again?
Say again?
It was around the 14th of July, wasn't
No,
it?
June
24th
27th. Yeah, it's a couple
July
weeks
1st.
out yet. I will have something next week.
So it's 7/25 is the meeting that they'll be out.
That's Janelle. I don't actually have it.
June 27th.
27th.
June 27th? June 27th.
Still at Hasties. Yeah, I see. Okay.
Alrighty. Now, let's have a little bit of something that I always like doing, which is recognizing the people who help recognize what we do. Troy Prince is going to come up, and part of what makes Rotary so important for those who are not familiar with Rotary is that we work internationally and we work in our community both, and one of the ways we do that is through the Rotary Foundation, and one of the ways that we help recognize is when people finish getting $1,000 or more, they get a Paul Harris. Troy has some to hand out.
Just one more reminder as well, so it's on top of our mind, is don't forget that July 4th, that Summertime by George starts earlier. That starts at 3 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. So just get that on your radar. It's 3 to 8:45 or something like that. It's in that flyer, so just be aware that the band is 4 to 7 o'clock instead of 6:30 to 9. So with that being said, we try to get our Paul Harris Fellow recognitions out. But on occasion, we have members that aren't able to be here, or they winter away, or whatever. So we've been trying to connect with people as they've arrived at meetings and have joined us here. So I've got two, and these are pretty outstanding, two Paul Harris Fellow +5. So if I could ask both Gary Marsden and John Watkins, please come forward.
Thank you, Troy. That is one of the things that we look at to support the Rotary International Foundation, and it works well. It works well, and it has helped us fund projects this year, which we'll cover next year when we do the review of the year. But we have done international projects, including water and computers and food. Thanks to those who help with that. All club members here have been 100% contribution this year, 100% donation. That's a great thing to see. Now, David Tripp. You have a couple of badges. Oh, sorry, you want to move it? You have a couple of badges with you, I think?
I only have one, but that's
Oh, bring the one up then, okay.
Kathy here?
Kathy and Helen?
No.
Oh, she was here, I thought I saw her come in.
Never mind.
Never mind, well, there's another time. There you go, that's the trouble with running a board meeting earlier. Okay, let's do some happy dollars. It's a beautiful, sunny, cool day, and happy dollars. Oh, Joan, Carol, Troy, Joyce is gonna come, sorry, it'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah.
Without your name badge.
Are you gonna be fined and then pay my happy buck then?
I don't know, we don't have, Tony Goddard didn't have any fines to do, so,
Yeah, okay, I got 2 happy bucks.
come on.
And one is to just remind everybody that Thursday morning, 7 to 8, at St. Cloud Technical and Community College, a Granite Rotary meets. And we have wonderful food, so if you need a makeup, you're all invited. And the other happy buck is to thank our legislators in the room, because Joan, started with Joan's tenure, ending with mine. We're getting medium-heavy truck, we're going to renovate the diesel truck program, and auto body. So thank you so much to everyone who's helped that. Thank you.
You think I'd remember, but you catch me off guard, that's what my brain does. Who else has got some happy dollars? All right, come on up, Leanne, come on up. Joan. I know, you're happy I'm in the play, aren't you?
Of course,
Oh,
that's
yes, you are.
exactly what it is, Jim. I am very happy to be back from Washington, D.C., where I spent the week with national board chairs and CEOs talking about really important Girl Scout issues. But more exciting, on Saturday, we were attending something called Rock the Mall, where we had 250,000 Girl Scouts on the mall, and it was absolutely amazing having a sing-along. It was a lot of girls, a lot of noise, but it was really great to see Girl Scouts in the news for all the important work that we do. So it was exciting.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that I'm happy because Sherry Wallen is in Washington, D.C. today with her little sister, and they did get to meet the president.
He's got $1. I'll put $1 in for Joyce's so I remember her name better next time. There you go.
I would like to thank you guys all for helping Dr. Carolyn Williams and encouraging her for the U.S. Science and Engineering Festival. It was a great success, and thank you for your help.
He's got more than one.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back from southern France, where we did a lot of biking, including the epic climb of Mont Ventoux. Mont Ventoux is where Lance Armstrong looked the great German biker Jan Ulrich in the eye and said, "Stay with me," and he blew him away on his way to win one of his 7 tour championships. So I have $7 for Lance and more.
Who else has some happy dollars? Come on, come on, come on. It's beautiful weather. Come on. All right, Lori, what do you have?
Well, I just have to echo thank you to everyone that helped us with our medium heavy truck project, because it's just incredibly needed and we're so thankful to have it. So thank you.
All right. David, are you reaching for your wallet or you just...
Well, I was just going to say, I'm going to give $1 to this truck and bus diesel. Mechanics, boy, we need, diesel mechanics are in desperate need everywhere. So.
All right, put your $1 in for you. You can pay me later. All right. Diesel and truck mechanics. Oh.
4 happy bucks for my twins and for the St. Cloud Times coverage of the local sports stories and photographs of both of them in the paper. I need to figure out how to get them from you. And more importantly, the happy bucks for their GPA. They're .007 apart from one another, and they keep exceeding beyond my beliefs. I'm happy.
Anybody else want to tell us something good news? Well, you actually give us bad news. As long as you give me money, it's really all the same to me. All right, then I'm going to turn it over to John Bodett to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, John. I was happy we spelled the name. Minnesota State Colleges and Universities Chancellor Stephen Rosenstone is responsible for providing academic leadership to the system's 31 colleges and universities, ensuring effective and efficient management and operation of the system, carrying out board policies, recommending operating and capital budgets to the board, and this is the best part, he's responsible for planning for the current and long-term educational needs of Minnesota. Now get this, there are 433,000 students in 54 campuses in Minsk. That means that Chancellor Rosenstone is responsible for making sure that those students receive a quality education that will help prepare them for careers in today's global economy. He also faces the challenges of educating them at a time of dwindling resources due to less state funding and a still struggling economy. And we haven't even mentioned yet
the responsibilities that come with making sure that you have top-flight faculty and staff at those 54 campuses to teach and mentor those 433,000 students. Rosenstone doesn't believe in micromanagement, at least he says that in interviews. That means he works with the leadership at 7 state universities and 24 community technical colleges in 47 communities across the state. As you know, our students are our future in so many ways, including our economic future and workforce success. In working towards that goal, he recently has been on a listening tour to find out the needs of the state's businesses. He said in an interview with Enterprise Minnesota magazine that he graced the cover of, well, no one asked me what we need. He said, I don't want any business in Minnesota to say, well, no one asked me what we need. If we can't get feedback on where the gaps are, then we can't deliver. The best people equipped to tell us are the people out there in the business industry trying to get the job done. So take advantage of that opportunity today and let him know what your gaps are. Now, as far as his biography goes, I went and got the official deal, and here is a list of his academic achievements, papers written, boards he has served on, and other things. So, being a good journalist, I went to Google and Googled every one of these papers, read them in their entirety, and they were very excellent scholarship. He has had a distinguished career in higher education, beginning with a summa cum laude bachelor's degree from Washington University, his master's degree and PhD from the University of California. I noted to him earlier that he was a professor of political science at Yale when he joined the University of Michigan to serve as a professor of political science. I was a political science major too, and I know that all of us used to ask, what are you going to do with that degree? So we now show you can be a college or a university chancellor and you can be an executive editor. It's something you can do with that. He was recruited to the University of Minnesota in 1996. Maybe John Corbinius had a hand in that, I don't know, to serve as Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, and he earned a reputation as a visionary and effective leader. He was named the Chancellor of Minnesota State Colleges and Universities in February 2011 and has been serving ever since. Here you go. This guy's awfully good. I've sat in on a couple of presentations and I would agree, because I'm a journalist, I can't lie. He truly seems to be a visionary leader and something as crucial as education we need today. Short enough for you? You told me to keep it short.
Well,
Stephen Rosenstone.
The old adage is never follow dog acts or young children performing. I have to amend that to include journalists who lead newspapers. It's a hard act to follow. It's a tremendous pleasure to be here today, and thank you, John, for those kind words and for the opportunity to visit with you. I'm also so pleased that Senator Michelle Fishbach and Senator John Peterson and Representative Steve Gall are here with us as well today. Keem Benyon sends his regards. I want to thank each of them for their advocacy on behalf of St. Cloud Technical Community College, their advocacy on behalf of St. Cloud State University, and their leadership on higher education issues for all of Minnesota. Of course, Senator Fishbach holds a very special position. Of course, she's a graduate of St. Cloud State University. I think that's a special position. The other special position, of course, is that she has a son who just completed degree requirements, and I know how good that feels. And of course, she chairs the Senate Higher Education Committee as well, and has raked me over the coals on a number of occasions, and has promised to be a little gentler today, but I think there'll be others that you've delegated and have authority to. What I would like to do is very briefly tell you a bit of what I've learned the last 10 months on the job, talk to you a bit about some of the challenges that we're facing here in Minnesota, describe for you how we're approaching those challenges and how we need to approach them together, and then just spend a moment or two on some of the specific steps that we're taking as part of our strategic planning. As was already mentioned, most of what I've learned has come from listening. I've spent a lot of time on the road, visiting with faculty, with students, with staff, with business and community leaders across our state, with legislators, and I've been in nearly every community in Minnesota. What I've learned, of course, as was already suggested, is that MnSCU is a tremendous resource for the state of Minnesota. Our colleges and universities provide access to learners across the entire state. We have a broad and deep impact on the communities that we serve. You see that in President Joyce Helens, and you see that in President Earl Potter, who, by the way, is with the governor in China on this mission that he's on. These are individuals who are deeply engaged in the life of their community. They're deeply engaged in the economic vitality of this community. They're deeply engaged with business and civic and industry leaders to figure out what the next steps are in their community. It's that engagement around the state of Minnesota which is crucial to the role that our colleges and universities play in shaping the vitality of our state. And we prepare Minnesota's workforce. We prepare them with the job skills required not just for the jobs that need to be done today, but for the jobs of the future. We prepare them to take a place in every sector in Minnesota's economy, nonprofits, profits, community organizations, civic organizations, government leadership, and the like. And we make sure they have the skills needed for the work that needs to be done. We are the 5th largest system of higher education in the nation. And we pride ourselves by the number of Minnesotans we serve, not by the number of people we turn away. We pride ourselves by the quality of our graduates, not by the ACT scores of our freshmen. And we serve not only students right out of high school, but we serve adult learners, those that have to come back for new careers or retool to get themselves to the leading edge of their professions, or those that never had any college but now decide they need it for the jobs that need to be done. 70% of our students are either first generation, coming from families with very modest financial means, or students of color. We are committed to providing access to higher education for all Minnesotans. We're responsible for serving 60% of all the undergraduate students in the state of Minnesota, a huge responsibility. And our students are from Minnesota. Our graduates get jobs in their chosen careers and fields. Our graduates stay in Minnesota to contribute to the quality of life of Minnesota. And we do that each year by turning out over 40,000 students with new certificates and degrees, and we do that every single year. Most of the major professions in Minnesota depend heartily on our colleges and universities to staff them. I was once told my first visit to St. Cloud Technical and Community College, one person from the health industry who was there the same day I was there made this point. Any surgical suite you go in the state of Minnesota, 7 out of 8 of the people in that suite have a degree from one of the colleges and universities in the state from our state system. And each of the industries in the state depend heartily on our programs to deliver the graduates necessary to fuel Minnesota's prosperity. In addition, we have literally 6,000 business partners around the state where we provide customized training on site usually to over 120,000 employees each year to ensure they remain at the cutting edge of their profession, that their productivity can be what it needs to be, so that the new technology that's coming online is technology they can take advantage of on behalf of the firm, so that we, Minnesota, can remain competitive. Demand for our programs has grown tremendously over the last decade, up about 15%. And at the same time that demand for our programs has gone up tremendously, the push on our part to manage our operating costs and increase productivity has also grown. So in real dollars, the cost of an education in MnSCU is actually 10% lower than it was a decade ago. The actual cost of educating a student is 10% lower than a decade ago. Now, who pays that cost has shifted tremendously, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But the most important point is through pay freezes, efficiencies in the way we've done our administration, through cuts in administrative costs, more efficient use of space, productivity increases, we have actually decreased the cost of delivering that education in the state. We are the most affordable higher education alternative in the state of Minnesota. Private trade schools are about 219% higher in cost than the average cost of one of our two-year colleges, technical or community colleges. Our good friends at the University of Minnesota cost about 77% more than the cost of attending one of our 7 state universities. Our private colleges in the state of Minnesota, both private, for-profit, and nonprofit, cost about 360% more than the cost of attending a comparable institution in Minnesota state universities, state colleges and universities. And our goal is to remain the most cost-effective, highest value option in the state. So those are some of the things in a nutshell that I've learned about our system. Let me talk a bit about some of the challenges that we're facing as a state. And these are challenges that I've heard in literally every single community across Minnesota that I've had the privilege of visiting over the last 10 months. The first thing I hear constantly in every community is about jobs. I hear about the difficulty that some people in our communities have in finding jobs, and at the same time I hear about the difficulties that employers have in filling jobs. I hear about the concern about the economic vitality of the community and what the strategy is going to be going forward for protecting that economic vitality. I hear concerns about access to higher education and the rising price that students have to pay to get that education. Let me just be a little more specific here. What I hear about from communities across our state, particularly communities which have manufacturing, biotech, and health sectors as big parts of those communities, what I hear is about the dire need for workers. Here's the painful reality. About 160,000 Minnesotans are without work. But there are sectors within our state that can't find workers to fill the jobs that go unfilled and sometimes don't even get posted anymore. That's holding back our industries from growing. It's holding back the growth of Minnesota across the state. And the problem is we have people without work, we have jobs that can't be filled. We need to solve that problem. And if you think about the future going forward, those workforce shortages are likely to grow. They're going to grow in part because the jobs of tomorrow require skills beyond even the skills we're providing to graduates today. And we've been listening, as was already mentioned, to business and industry leaders across the state to better understand from them not just how many workers they need with what kind of skills, but where that industry is likely to go over the years ahead. They need more advanced skills, greater role for technology, and that's true in every single sector of Minnesota's economy. They need not just the skills to begin work, but for the skills to learn and grow over the course of one's lifetime, both, if you will, the technical skills and the more foundational skills to be creative, to work in a team, to invent, to interact with customers and clients in thoughtful ways. They need the breadth of knowledge to enable every single business in Minnesota to compete in a global economy the way we'll need to in this century. That's one challenge. Another challenge is that in the year 2018, 70% of every single job in Minnesota will require some post-secondary education. 85% of all the jobs being created between today and 2018 are going to require some post-secondary education, with roughly half of those jobs requiring not a baccalaureate degree, but a certificate or diploma of 2 years or less. That's what we need to accomplish in Minnesota if we're going to be competitive in a global economy, if we're going to protect the vitality of the regional economies around our state, if our firms and businesses are going to continue to grow the way they're capable of growing. But we're facing some challenges here. 1 out of 4 high school freshmen do not finish high school on time. And many of those who do finish are not prepared for higher education. Another problem, Minnesota now has the 3rd worst achievement gap in the nation. That is not just a Twin Cities problem, it is true across Minnesota. So we have a situation that the fastest growing populations in our state, first generation, who've never gone to college before in their family, students of color, students coming from families of very modest financial needs, the fastest growing populations in our state are those least prepared for the education they need for Minnesota to be competitive, for them to take the jobs that need to be filled. We got to close that achievement gap. We got to make sure that more students are prepared for higher education when they finish high school. We cannot afford, as a state, to leave anyone behind. And the simple fact of the matter is that if students do not have post-secondary education in this century, they are condemned to a life of poverty, because there will not be good-paying jobs unless you have the education necessary to take those jobs. That's kind of like shooting ourselves in both feet, as Tom Freeman put it a couple weeks ago. On the one hand, we don't have people prepared for the jobs that need to be done, and on the other hand, we have people that aren't contributing to Minnesota's economy that actually are going to be a draw on Minnesota's economy going forward. We need to solve that problem. Every single high school student must graduate on time and be prepared for higher education, regardless of whether it's a 2-year program or a baccalaureate degree. That's one part of the puzzle, and together we got to solve it. Here's another part of the puzzle. The red line here is the decline in public support, public dollar support for higher education in the state of Minnesota per student served in real dollars. And the blue line is what the average decline in support has been in the nation as a whole. So what's happened over the last decade, Minnesota's moved from, as Garrison would put it, being above average, to now not even being at the average for the nation as a whole. Support for higher education in Minnesota has been cut 40%. In the nation as a whole, it's been cut 19%. And if you look at the last 2 years, there's only 9 states in the nation that have cut higher education more deeply than it's been cut in Minnesota. That's shooting yourself in both feet. What does it mean for Minnesota state colleges and universities, the system that I'm responsible for? If we look out over the past decade, in constant dollars per student served, our state support has been cut 45%. Now, some of that decline in state support, so as the state has withdrawn its support, the way we've made up the lost state support has been to take the salary freezes, to find administrative efficiencies, to cut administration, raise productivity, use our space more efficiently. But some of that cut in state support has meant tuition increases for our students. So here's what the chart looks like over the last decade. The red line represents the proportion of the budget which is tuition. The blue line represents state support. And back about 5 years ago, the lines crossed. So we've moved literally in a decade from roughly 60% of the costs being covered by the good people of Minnesota to now just barely 40%, a little under 40% being covered by the good people of Minnesota, and now students picking up the part that used to be paid for by the state. That's why tuition's gone up, not because we've gotten fat and lazy and sloppy and inefficient. We've actually done just the opposite. It's because the state support's been withdrawn. Some of it we've absorbed, some of it our students have absorbed. So here we are sitting at this most crucial moment in Minnesota's history, and we have a perfect storm right in front of us, a perfect storm. A pressing need for a better educated workforce than ever before. A pipeline that's leaving many people behind and many who are not prepared for higher education. And huge public disinvestment from higher education at precisely the moment when we need to be investing in what is the most precious resource we have as a state going forward, and that's our human capital. There is no better strategy for Minnesota than having the human capital necessary for industry and business around this state to thrive. So we're digging in, and we're addressing these challenges, and let me tell you a bit about what we're doing. Our colleges and universities play an absolutely essential role in growing Minnesota's economy and opening the doors of educational opportunity for all Minnesotans. And we are committed to doing 3 things. These are the 3 things that the Board of Trustees, the presidents across this state, and I are committed to following through on. First and foremost, we are committed to ensuring access to an absolutely extraordinary education for all Minnesotans. We're committed to being the partner of choice to meet Minnesota's workforce and community needs, and we're committed to delivering to students, to employers, to communities, to taxpayers, the highest value, most affordable higher education option available in the state of Minnesota. We've developed a bold set of commitments, a bold set of initiatives to make these commitments real. And we're moving on a very aggressive timeline to deliver on these commitments. Let me just say a word or two about the action plan, and then I look forward to the discussion. With respect to access, we're deepening our partners with communities that have traditionally been underserved by higher education. We're working hard on ways to increase access to baccalaureate education, in particular in the metro area, the fastest, largest part of our state, but most underserved by baccalaureate education. And we are working very hard to continue to keep tuition affordable. Average tuition increase in our colleges next year will be $171. The average tuition increase at our universities will be $285. There is no other system of higher education in the state that's coming in with tuition increases that low. And our presidents have worked hard with their leadership teams to make sure that we can do that without threatening the quality of the education we're providing. Faculty in every college and university around the state spent time this past spring in a forum of discussions talking about the next steps they're willing to take to ensure an absolutely extraordinary, not a pretty good, not an above average, but an absolutely extraordinary education for our students. It means more hands-on education, more engaged with problem solving, more engaged with the workforce and workplace, and more active learning than ever before. We will be delivering by the end of next year a set of codified learning outcomes for every single program. So when you get a graduate from one of our institutions, it's not just that he or she did the seek time to get the diploma, but here's what we're certifying that graduate has accomplished and what the capabilities are of that graduate. And we develop those learning outcomes in conversation with you. We need to hear from you what those graduates need to do, and we need to be held accountable on delivering it. And we're working hard on thinking about ways in which technology can enhance education in all of its aspects, both what happens in the classroom and in the lab, as well as what can happen online. We need to get our students out faster, and more of them have to get to the finish line in a timely fashion, and we're committed to doing that. We're working hard to try to get more of that remedial education back into K-12 where it belongs, but when we do have students, adults, or students right out of high school that are not prepared, we need to move people to the starting gate faster and better than ever before. And we're committed to ensuring seamless transfer of credit from one institution to another across our state. We've made great progress on that front, and this year we took some other new giant steps as well. With respect to the workforce, we have completed 44 listening sessions around the state, where we have sat and listened to employers in every business sector telling us what their needs are going forward. How many workers, with what skills, in what regions of the state, with what capabilities, and where's your industry going, and what do we need to do to keep up? Our presidents, our chief academic officers are taking the results of that listening session. We will come back this summer and this fall and start retooling our academic programs to align them what those needs are. That is not a one-time conversation. That is a new way of doing business, where we stay aligned with what the needs are and we move as fast as we can to where that puck's going to be in time that's much faster than academics function at normal speed. This is something we've done collaboratively with the Chamber of Commerce, something we've done collaboratively with the Department of Employment and Economic Development. That will lead to improvements in academic programs, improvements in the quality of our graduates, a greater alignment to meet the workforce needs of Minnesota, improvements in customized training, and the like. And the final part of the puzzle has to be to address this pipeline question. We can have all the right programs, turning out the right graduates with the right number of seats, aligned with the workforce needs, but if the seats are empty, because there aren't graduates coming out of high school prepared and pointed in the right direction, we've not solved the problem. So I'm working collaboratively with Commissioner Brenda Casilius, the Department of Education, with Director Larry Pogamo, the Office of Higher Education, to figure out how we can rethink the alignment of grades 11, 12, 13, and 14 to get more kids college ready, to get more of the remedial education back in the high schools, to get more kids on track to college, and point it in the direction that makes sense for them. Not everybody needs a baccalaureate degree in political science.
It's nice to have.
It's nice to have, but you know, if every single person in Minnesota went after a baccalaureate degree in political science, Minnesota would be in deep trouble. So how do we get students in high school and their families and guidance counselors to better understand what the market is, what the workforce needs are, what the hot careers are, and how we can help them get on the right track to accomplish that and get them pointed to the right institutions to deliver that education. That's part of the project that we have to take responsibility for as well. With respect to the last leg, we are continuing to aggressively manage our costs. We have built a campus co-op which allows all business practices across all 54 campuses to be done in a shared fashion. This will produce tremendous efficiencies and savings. Every one of those dollars will be pumped back into the academic programs. They stay on the campuses to improve the quality of the academic programs, the equipment that's in place, and to hold down those tuition increases. And our presidents are leading this, and they're committed to making it happen, and we will have this fully functional by the end of this calendar year. We're also thinking differently about what services the central office should provide, if any. The system office is now 24% smaller than it was 3 years ago. And my sign of success as chancellor is not going to be building a bigger system office. It's going to be getting out of as many projects as I can and empowering the presidents to lead on their campuses and being there only when there's value added from the system office being involved. And this fall, we're taking on the financial model that underlines the entire MINSCU system to make sure that the financial model allocates the state resources in ways that align with that strategic framework and is indeed incenting the kind of outcomes that we need to produce for the people of Minnesota. So in concluding, we have a pretty sharp focus here. And we are moving with great intent, and we are moving very quickly. We are more engaged, we are more responsive, we are more efficient, more effective, and more focused than ever before on serving students, on serving communities, and on serving Minnesota. We are committed to reaching out to those that have traditionally been underserved by higher education, but who need to be served if Minnesota is going to have the economic vitality it needs going forward. We are committed to collaborating with K-12, with Department of Employment and Economic Development, with communities, and with businesses and industry across the state to meet Minnesota's continuing workforce needs and to be a partner in advancing the vitality of communities across the state. To do all this means, indeed, we're thinking differently. It means that we're making lots of tough choices. It means that we're redesigning the ways we do almost everything, from how we teach, to how we administer things, to how we organize our programs, to how we partner, to how we do our budgets, and how we hold ourselves accountable. And we're excited about this and engaged by this. These three commitments are commitments that we are wholly committed to, and we will follow through on them. We need you as a partner. We need communities across the state to be our partners in this project. We need business and industry to be our partner. We also need the state of Minnesota to be a partner again. Together, we will protect the vitality of communities across the state. Together, we will advance the economic vitality of Minnesota. So let me stop there, and I would welcome discussion, I welcome questions, I welcome complaints. Yes, sir.
Steve, would you address one of your graphics was that the overall enrollment declined the past year.
Yep.
I'm hearing St. Cloud State's going to be down 1,000 students this year. What is the system-wide enrollment? Is it trending downward? Is that more than demographics, or is it purely demographics?
System-wide, the enrollment dropped about 2% this past year. There's variation across the state in some were up a couple percent, some were down a couple percent. We look pretty carefully at that, and it's really a good news, not a bad news story, and let me tell you why. I'll wind the clock back to 2008, 2009. So what happened as we got into the depth of this recession, people went to school. They started getting themselves retrained as they lost jobs or as careers needed to be retooled. They went back to school. And the biggest reason for the decline in enrollments is people finished and graduated and they're going back to work. That's point one. Second point is that as we start coming out of the depth of the recession, the employment rate has been inching down in Minnesota into the 5s now. not up to the 8s where it used to be. More people are going to work rather than education. So we expect enrollments this coming year to either be about flat or down maybe another %, but nowhere near a point where we're concerned about it, something we're doing. It's the change that's occurred as a result of the employment market coming back and as a result of people successfully completing degrees. So that's a good news story, not one that we're alarmed by. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure how to ask this. I don't mean this in any way a criticism, but it might come out that way. I don't mean it that way. Over the last 3 or 4 years, right here at Rotary, we've had maybe a dozen speakers, like yourself, the state demographer, state economist, University of Minnesota president, you know, really, really good speakers, as you were today. My question is over that same 3 or 4 year period of time, all of these trend lines, particularly the ones that most of us would conclude are somewhat alarming, have not adjusted. They continue to trend in the wrong direction. In particular, the one, I think one of us a couple years ago asked Tim Valenti about it. And it has to do with the high school graduation rate in Minnesota. I think if you ask the average person on the street, what is the graduation rate in Minnesota, most people are still going to think it's somewhere at 90% and above. And of course, they're way off. And in some subsectors of the population, it's much graver than 30 or 70, whichever way you want to read it. Now, the question is, when are the trend lines going to adjust to a more positive direction, and what specifically has to be done to cause that to happen?
That's not a hostile question, that's an important question. All of us need to do a better job. Just simple. All of us need to do a better job. Higher education needs to do a better job. Part of it's the alignment of making sure that the graduates are turning out have the skills that are necessary to do the work that needs to be done. Part of it's getting the right programs in the right place to turn out the right number and quality graduates. Part of it in higher education is getting more students to the finish line faster. We're working on that part. K-12 also has to do a better job. We cannot have a third of the students coming to our community technical colleges needing remedial education. We can't have 50% of students of color in the state of Minnesota who are freshmen not graduating on time in their senior year. That has to be changed. So part of what I'm working on with Brenda Casilius and others is rethinking how 11, 12, 13, 14 work. So why are we waiting until the end of 12th grade to take students who are college ready and get them started in college? If they are college ready, and I just don't mean the academic skills, I mean technical skills too. If they are college ready, why can't they start sooner? Why can't we then focus our attention on those that aren't college ready, on getting them college ready? One of the things that Commissioner Casilius told me the first time we got together is, here's a way to think about the problem. Here's the standard for graduation from high school, state standard. Here's college readiness. They're not even in sync with each other. We want to at least get them in sync. As a parent, I just had a son who marched in graduation from high school last week, number 3. Thank God they're done. There's no information you get as a parent through high school about whether your kid's college ready. You know whether they're passing MCAs, but there's not a single piece of information you get about whether that student is college ready. Imagine a system. We're starting in the 8th grade. You're learning as a student, as a parent, as a teacher, and as a high school, whether or not the students are on track to being ready for post-secondary education. And then if they're not on track, have the accountability being you got to get them on track. And you're getting the feedback for parents, the feedback for kids, the feedback for schools and teachers. Imagine that by the time we get to a 10th or 11th grade, in addition to knowing about their academic preparedness, we've done an assessment to find out what their skills, passions, and interests are. So that begin to not only think about the academic preparedness they need, but how about if you really like working with your hands? You really like solving problems. You really like being out in the field doing things. You like working on teams. Well, what kind of work does that best line up with? And how does that line up with the academic skills you have? And how does that line up with what the workplace says we really need? And can we use that to help get kids pointed in the right direction?
So the system has to work better, it has to work more efficiently, and it has to produce outcomes that are better for students, better for schools, using the good people of Minnesota's money more efficiently, and getting more kids on path to higher education to get to that magic number 70 we need. Otherwise, business and industry in the state will not have the workers they need, and they're no longer tied to the mines, the rivers, the mills, and the land the way they used to be. They can pick up and leave. And I know President Helens and others are deeply engaged in bringing new manufacturing firms to this region. The secret sauce in keeping them here is going to be the workforce prepared for those firms to grow as they compete globally. So that whole thing has to be rethought, and we're coming forward with some ideas on how to do that. In fact, Brenda Casilius and Larry Poggemiller will be presenting to our Board of Trustees our initial thinking on this on June 20th next week. But it has to be rethought. We can't be afraid to say it's no longer just Minsku's responsibility or the U's responsibility, K-12's responsibility or business responsibility. All of us got to put the pieces together in a far more powerful way, or we're not going to get it done.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Rubin. So certainly plenty to, oh, did I go off again? Oh well, certainly plenty to think about. Let's say thank you to a couple of folks. First, Murray Mac for greeting and standing back there getting trampled by all the guests coming in. Appreciate that. State senators who are here, John Peterson, Michelle Fishbach, Steve Cotwell. I like it. Steve's got his name sewn on his shirt so he knows who he is. I like that. The guests from St. Cloud State visiting here. I appreciate it. It's nice to have you all here. And Heather, a special thank you for trying this out and taking a look, see if you like it there. And to all who are here, Warren Tejan, nice to have you back in town for a few bits there. Joyce, nice to have you back at the club for at least a meeting. And to have you folks back in for the summer. Here it must be summertime, even if it's cold outside. Say, I'm thinking to myself here, John, what are we doing in the next couple of weeks?
You know, we've got some terrific programs lining up. I want to let you know on a couple of them. Next week we have the peaceful transition of power between club presidents. The parade units will be forming over here. Dress appropriately. Next week so we have that. Then we have the President Mary Ann Benninger, the College of St. Benedict president, will speak on the 26th. Two new programs that we have coming up. On July 17th, we have Ken Heim, the fire chief in Sartell, and Patty Gartland, the city administrator, will talk about their experiences during the recent paper mill explosion and fire, how they were prepared for it. They did a tremendous job, and we'll talk about that. And then Heather, unless we scared you off today, Heather Weems, the new athletic director at St. Cloud State, will be talking to us on the 24th. So lots of good stuff coming up. So.
Okay. Thank you. David and Dan Kroscott. Do we have anything happening tomorrow night?
We do, and it's sponsored by Times Media.
Sponsored by At the Lake. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.